All right, thank you so much for being here. This is the live Q&A for the trust experiment. I'm so happy to see so many familiar faces. I'm going to give you a brief kind of rules of the game here. So if you have a question, please type it, just maybe type your name into the chat. If you would like to verbalize your question, just know that your face will show up in the recording. If you don't verbalize, the camera will just be on me. But if you want to actually ask your question, the camera will point to you and that will show up in the recording. So for those of you who are not shy, show your face. That'd be great. I think it adds a little color to the recording. And this video will end up on YouTube for others who couldn't attend live. So just to let you know, if you would like to just type your question into the chat, and you're a little weary about being seen publicly, that's fine. You can do that as well. But please don't just blurt out your question at a random time. Please type your name in and let me call on you so that this doesn't get too chaotic. Also, just a heads up, I've been fasting for about 6 days now, and you get a little bit loopy when you fast for a period of time. So in the event that, I answer your question in a way that's not understandable, or like call someone out of order, or just do anything that's, seems like I'm kind of off somewhere, that's what's going on. Feel free to let me know. I'd be happy if you corrected me. So I guess we'll start with that. I don't know if all of you are familiar with the trust experiment or not. This is something that began about a month ago. For me, it's not an experiment in that it wasn't really a choice. My body is doing this thing. It's going into highly revelatory states on a daily basis. And in the process is purging. And so about a month and a half ago, a paralysis process started. This began almost 4 years ago. It went away as I made some changes in my lifestyle. And now the doctors said that was not possible, that it would go away. It did, but it is reemerged in this time of very heavy world chaos. It reemerged. And the revelations I'm going to describe from my perception, there seems to be a connection to what my body's going through and the world circumstance. Whether that's factual or not, honestly, I don't care because I have no way of knowing. But what I have noticed is that I don't seem to have a choice in what I'm doing, in that my body has become there's been so much trust for the body over the years through this training. The body has become, in a sense, kind of awake. I mean, it just does its own thing in a healthy way. And what I mean in a healthy way, I mean in a spiritually healthy way. And that doesn't mean necessarily always pleasant things. About a month or month and a half ago, the paralysis was coming on, and it was very clear in meditative or highly aware states that I needed to turn into the paralysis process with my attitude, accepting and even being happy about it, which was strange. But it was actually surprisingly easy to do, in that my ego was such a small voice compared to the momentum of the embodied awareness that my body had already had. And through the last month and a half, there's been daily revelations and experiences, lots of pain, lots of sleep. The body's exhausted, obviously, and some useful information. I'm hoping today you may ask some questions that will bring things out. In my loopy state, having not eaten much of anything in the last 6 days, I wouldn't rely on me to just remember everything. So if you ask, it'll probably pull things out. This update is kind of about 6 days ago. My body just wouldn't eat much. It ate a little bit in the morning, maybe 3 bites of food. And again, same thing in the evening. The next day, exactly the same thing. The following day, 2 bites of food in the morning, and then even the thought of food, the look or the smell would create a profoundly nauseous feeling in the body. And I haven't eaten since. So this is day 6, day 3 of eating nothing, 3 days prior of eating very, very little. As a result, my body is clearly going through a purging stage. So like rashes on the body. I got this like a cystic pimple that's showing up on my face, something like I didn't have since I was a teenager. Um, Various aches and pains and swellings, and inside my mouth got like bumps and things on the cheeks and things like that. Um, it feels very necessary what it is I'm going through. And it's the inner feeling in the body is rather joyous. I can say that I probably never felt better. And I don't mean that just because of the fasting. That was long before the fasting. Um, Prior to the fasting, I couldn't move my neck much at all. Sorry, prior to this trust experiment, the paralysis was coming on. I couldn't move my neck much at all. I couldn't do side to side, up or down. Uh, about, I don't know, a week or two ago, I think I put up a video about it, where I showed that the range of, I can move my arms and the range of motion. And now that's like, I have really full range of motion. However, the left arm is still going numb. It still has a sort of electric feeling in the fingertips, which means there's a nerve that's being impinged. There's arthritis throughout my body. The MRI came, two MRIs. One is the cervical spine, and below that the thoracic spine. Came back just yesterday. Got the results, which is quite nice to see some pretty cool, unexpected results. So first is 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago, I had the spine checked, and at that time there was impingement on the nerves, basically due to rheumatoid arthritis, and the bones are growing into the nerves, cutting them off, and results in nerve death. That's gone entirely. No nerve impingement. No, what do they call it? I wrote it down here somewhere. Slips my mind, but there's no diminishment of the gap between the vertebrae, which will often cause problems. So that's also quite unexpected. There still is visible rheumatoid arthritis, but it's not causing any harm to the nerves right now in the spine. So that, I'm guessing all of that change happened about a month or several weeks ago. Put a video up talking about my vertebrae moving around and stuff as I was in this revelatory state. I'm guessing that reduced all the inflammation in my spine. But I still have clearly pretty severe rheumatoid arthritis in my other joints. And mostly on the left side, that's where the impingement is primarily. A little bit, I have some symptoms on the right hand, but very rare. So like the left ankle, the left hip, the left shoulder, and my left pinky are like the most extreme and quite uncomfortable. It's hard to sleep because any position, those areas tend to ache. My guess is my body went into this fasting stage as a purge naturally. I did not have a thought, I'm going to fast. So every fast I've ever had prior to this, and I've fasted twice for 15 days prior to this, has always been willful. It's always been, oh, tomorrow I'm going to start a fast. And then I would start a fast, and then you go through the fast for however long you determine. So I would say 2 weeks or whatnot. But this is completely natural. It's my body just is doing this. The interesting thing about it is the purging results of this very natural fast are much more intense than what I would get through a willful fast. The reduction in inflammation, as well as all the strange symptoms that you get when your body's purging, all of that's much more intense. It's also more uncomfortable. Not in the sense that I'm hungry, because I'm really not hungry, but just itching and pain and stuff like that. And so that's kind of what's been going on. And so before I talk about anything else, I kind of want to get any questions that you might have about what I've talked about so far, if you have any. You can type your name in if you'd like to talk, or just type your question and if you had any questions. I'm hoping some of you, based off of your emails you've sent to me, are engaging in your own trust experiment. And I'd also like to hear the results of what you've noticed from your own trust experiment. So I'd love to hear that, as well as any questions you might have. Yes, Tony, go ahead.
Hello, Richard.
Hi, Tony.
This is quite bizarre. I only got your email half an hour ago, and I didn't know the time over there. I'm in Liverpool, England. Now, I've been going through what I class as a spiritual process for quite a while now. And what you just spoke about resonates a lot, bizarrely, with what's been going on with myself. Recently, I've been very, very tired, sleeping a hell of a lot. Hi, Keith. Sorry, that's my dog. Sleeping a hell of a lot. I've got pains, and I have pains for a while down my left-hand side. The one major one is just under my left shoulder blade. Now, it's dying off now, because I read somewhere, a guy from over here called Jeff Thompson, great spiritual guy, and he was saying if you focus on the pains, they'll move themselves, and gradually over the years it's dying out, it's going. But now and again I can feel it now. It's almost it. It's in my elbow, it goes down to my wrist, it's also my hip, and it started recently in my ankle, and I haven't got a clue. I'm thinking, have I got a dodgy hip? There's something wrong, I don't know. However, I think it's a bit more to it than that. Over the years, I've noticed, you know, when you say lumps and bumps and stuff, and spots you get, I've had them over my body, and I've noticed the clearing, that they're making, it's sort of as if they're making the way up. I have loads recently around there, around my throat. I don't know whether you're aware, just someone talks about the heart space and stuff can enter into their stuff, which I didn't know about when they wrote that. But over the years, and I've started to feel better and better and better as it's getting up there. I'm now getting in meditation. I'm meditating every day. And the meditation seems to be deeper and deeper and more intense. And it's basically wiping me out. Also, the fasting thing, I'm not like you are at the minute, but I'm physically training. I keep physically active, and I want to eat, and I force myself to eat. For some bizarre reason, like I have toast in the morning, I'll try to eat a meal. I don't want to eat it, but I need to because of my training. So I'm like yourself. I too am going through an extremely similar phase. I've noticed all these lumps there, especially on my neck, my head. But it's as if it's rising, you know, it's rising. And I had loads of lumps. I used to sit on a bus, massive pains in my back, all over my back. Why can't I sit? Everyone else is sitting there. I'm like that all the time. Anyway, once I started focusing on them and a bit of self-massage, they've gone up and up and up, and they're dying out. And when I meditate, I get this massive energy now around my neck, in my mouth, and around my head, especially my forehead at the minute. So something, you know, I went to the doctors, I got blood tests. Blood tests were fine. I was getting bad stomach pains, really bad stomach pains. They've died down now, although they are now and again there. And he said, there's nothing there. It's right. In my heart of hearts, I knew there was something spiritual going on, or whatever. And my journey's been like that for a long time. Now, I remember a while ago when you said that paralysis state, I had about 6 years ago. I've gone through extremely stressful time. And one day I was lying in bed, and all of a sudden, out of the blue, my body started shaking on its own, bizarrely. And it was just going bonkers. And I let it do it. I just let it do it, and I was sweating profusely. It seemed like about half an hour. It probably wasn't, probably a couple of minutes. but afterwards I felt drained but empty. And I've heard somewhere that that's like a source of cleansing when you strip back to the bone stressfully. That's another spiritual type of thing. But after that, there seems to be a quicker growth, if you know what I mean.
Yes.
The spiritual journey after that specific event has gone faster and faster and faster. And I'm at that stage now where I know not to rush it. You know, I ask higher powers or whatever you believe in, just give me what I can handle at this time. Because I've done it before, we'd have rushed in. I basically thought I was going mad, you know. So I'm in a very similar position. It's funny the way you say the left-hand side, because I've thought to myself, is that to do with something I don't know? It's crazy. Even the way I just got your email just before.
All right. Thank you, Tony. That was actually a lot of content within your description. So the first thing that is helpful to understand, and this is something that very few meditation teachers seem to talk about, maybe because it wouldn't be very good advertising. I don't know. It's something I talk about fairly regularly, however, is that if you have an effective meditation method, it will often bring up unresolved issues from the subconscious to the conscious.
Yeah.
So that these things can be seen and transformed, transmitted, released, let go of. Oftentimes, as these things emerge, the result is some physical symptoms as well. So we might get breakout, we might get pimples, we might get lumps, we might get itches, we might get aches and pains, we might have feelings of anxiety, all kinds of strange things can occur. And oftentimes, because these things are so rarely talked about in the meditation universe, if people don't know what it means, they don't understand what it means, and it can actually create an adverse reaction, like they then shy away from meditation, or they think they don't want to do it anymore, not realizing that this is just we're just kind of going through some muck that we need to go through. And so in all likelihood, that's what you're experiencing. Now, if I had to guess, are you right-handed or left-handed? I would guess you're right-handed. And so your symptoms are showing up on the weak side. This is typically how it will be.
Right.
This is typically how it will be. I'm also right-handed, so the symptoms are going to almost completely show up on the left side. It's normal. There may be some inflammation going on, rheumatoid arthritis or something. These are not death sentences. These are things that even if the doctor says cannot heal, they can, but the way that they heal is primarily in two parts that I found. One is really being honest with yourself and starting to trust your body and listen to it, what it wants. Your body's going right now through its own purge stage, but probably because you have a certain image of self physically, a certain ideal for how you would be, you want to exercise and be healthy. This ideal of being healthy may be preventing you from allowing your body to go through the process that it needs to go through, which may be a process of rest and recovery.
That makes sense, actually. Yeah.
Right. And so if you continue to do the exercises, you're actually probably preventing your body from doing what it needs to do, and that wouldn't be trust.
Yeah.
Right. Whatever it's going to go through in the event that that trust process takes over, whatever you're going to go through will probably be somewhat uncomfortable. But if the attitude is actually trust, it won't be a negative experience psychologically. Much like when you work out, it's not a negative experience psychologically. If you actually are self-motivated to work out. Now, if you're doing it because someone shamed you and you're kind of grudging your way through it, that's a different thing. But if you actually have truly embraced exercise, it's a painful thing that's actually rewarding psychologically, right? Does that make sense?
Makes a lot of sense, Richard, because training recently, I've felt, I'm in this constant battle. I'm like yourself, I was into martial arts and stuff. I don't do it nowadays. I've realised it when I do the martial arts, or when I train on my back or train in self-protection stuff. Afterwards, I feel absolutely terrible, and I never used to. It's as if I'm going against what my body wants. Even just my body weight training, pull-ups, sit-ups, press-ups, even that. I want to do it because it makes me feel good, and that's it. And I like, I like being toned, whatever. However, what you said has made a lot of sense, because after the training, especially, say Monday, it just wiped me out of it. It felt like it hit my nervous system. I thought, I don't overtrain anymore. I used to. I don't now. I thought, why am I feeling like this? So it makes total sense that maybe I've got to leave that for the minute. And as you say, it takes a lot of trust, doesn't it? It takes a lot of trust.
It takes a lot of trust. It takes a lot of trust. And this trust will build as you go through the process.
I think, to be honest, all this, what's happened, Stephen, talking to you now, this is my next step that I've got to take, hand over.
It's a step you actually are taking. You showed up here today. You described what you're going through. You had a realization as a result. You are going through it right now. And it's natural that there's going to be some areas of resistance. We'll call these egoic resistances. These are resistances. Essentially, we have a program from the past that's saying how things should be, like I should be exercising, that prevents us from actually just saying, okay, body, what do you want to do? What's needed? Yeah. The other thing is, we're not, in our societies, there's no information on the actual intelligence of the body. People think that their intelligence is just like this mental thing. But what we fail to recognize is this mental thing is just, it actually builds from your body up. Your brain develops, first your body develops, then your brain develops. It's just the flower at the top, but it doesn't mean it's the most intelligent aspect. It doesn't mean it's the most intelligent aspect. It's the thing that can say, I am me. Yes, that's true. And it can also say, you are not me. It can say those things, and it can kind of create a story of our lives. But oftentimes that story is not really very accurate. And there's a much deeper, more profound intelligence in the body that we can, if that trust is built up sufficiently, it becomes really obvious. And so strangely, at that point, once it becomes very, very obvious, you can actually just talk to your body. You can ask your body questions, and you will understand instantly the answer. It'll just be obvious. And this is something that's very difficult to convey to someone who hasn't had this experience repeatedly. If you've never had the experience, you wouldn't know at all. But I would say there's some hints that we get. You ever have a dream that solves your problems? Right? Most of us have had these things. There's a wisdom in the body that we're not necessarily in tune with, but it's there. And if we really want to know, and sincerely want to know the answers to our problems, and we ask sincerely, and we trust the body, we'll get the answers, even if we don't like what those answers tell us. And oftentimes we won't like what those answers tell us, because sometimes we've been thinking, behaving, living in ways that are incompatible with nature, with our own body's nature. So with that, we'll move on to the next question. Judith, go ahead.
So thank you. I started experiencing my body talking to me. I became more aware when I was on a program to shed about 90 pounds. And there were all these psychological things to study, but also I noticed, the cells have memory, and they hold toxins in them. So when they would be releasing, I would have days when I would actually feel like, oh, the body's releasing toxins. I could feel it because my thinking would be irrational, and I couldn't focus, and it was like I just had to be in the process, you know, it just was what it was. And then years have gone by, you know, 5 or 6 years have gone by, and now the process is more like aware of what hurts. I had a fall last week. I tend to daydream when I'm walking the dog, and I fell on a stub. There was a stub on the ground that I didn't see, and I fell flat on my face, and my glasses kept it from hitting my eyes. And you know, I have a hurt here and a hurt on my knee, and it's healing. So this body self-awareness, I've heard the idea that the gut has a brain, and the heart has a brain, and the mind has a brain. And I don't know if that's true or not. It's kind of like, but I do know that when I am aware of my body and whether it's relaxed when I'm meditating or relaxed at night, I can just fall asleep like right away. You know, it's just like, boom, I'm out. I mean, I'm over into that place. And there's that semi-conscious place between when I fall asleep or when I've been meditating or whatever, that where the body relaxes down and it does its processes. And I think it's important to know my body as it is, not as I picture it to be, or I'm trying to mold it to be, or you know, something like that, you know, or these ideas about exercise or blah 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 blah. It just goes on and on, you know, all the stuff that we get bombarded with, you know. So yeah, my Jewish friends say, man plans, God laughs. And I think that probably I've been a source of big amusement for my higher power for a long, long time, you know, because I love to daydream and be in that different place, you know. So yeah, this is wonderful, and I so enjoyed the book of the Genesis Code, because it affirmed kind of all the ideas that I've had over the years of being born perfect. And you know, that idea that my mother gave me of, she read me stories about the gods, you know, and if it's true that I'm one with God and everyone else and all of you, then God creates good, you know, and I'm good and you're good, and every living sentient being, animals and plants and the people that orbit around us are good for us and to us if we're awake and can see them.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, in a universe where it's all one field, which is the universe, there isn't any other. Now, if one awakens to a sufficient degree, one starts to recognize that this intelligence we're talking about, not really intelligence, is not the right thing, or not exactly the right term, but especially as we start to kind of have trust for the body, we start to realize that it has its own intelligence. It is conscious in its own way, and maybe more conscious than the egoic perception of the way you think your mind is. I mean, think of all that your body manages. And now imagine it was your job to consciously manage breathing, like your mind's job to consciously manage breathing, to pump the heart, to clean the toxins through the liver and digest your food. It would just, you would tap out in a second. You'd be like, I'm done. I can't do it. You'd die. Your body is managing all of this stuff. It's incredible what it does. There is an intelligence there. The question is this. People think there's Earth and then there's me. Like I am separate from the Earth. My first realization that idea was false happened, my first realization in a really deep sense happened when I was in the Amazon. An Amazon elder, or was a guide, I guess it would be a guide. He wasn't actually an elder. He's probably only 40 years old or something like that. But he was guiding us through the forest, and he took us to this massive, I don't know, maybe you call it a banyan tree or something like that, just massive. It was one of the biggest trees I've ever seen. Had these massive vines that are like as thick as your leg growing up it. And he says that this tree is sort of the heart. These trees are the heart of the ocean, ocean. That's Titanic. Heart of the jungle. And without these trees, the whole forest will wither and die. And these trees are being cut down for hardwood sales in the United States and Oregon for furniture. And it's like they're just being destroyed. And they're 2, 3, 4, 5,000 years. It takes that long just to grow, right? Because they're hardwoods. And so they can't just be replaced. And then after he said that, one of the other members in our group asked, with Shell on these and in the polluting the forest, because what they would do is they will drill for oil, and then they just spill out the castings or whatever the stuff they don't want on the forest floor, and it seeps into the water, and then everybody gets cancer, all the animals. I mean, it's horrific what they do, but there isn't any regulation there. So that's what they do. But also the farmers go out and they just slash and burn the forest. And every year they have to keep burning new stuff because the soil in the Amazon is just centimeters thick. It's very, very thin soil, but the life is so alive, the cycle is so quick. If you were to puke or shit on the forest floor, it disappears within like an hour. It's bizarre. It just absorbed by microorganisms and immediately goes into the trees and organisms around it. It's just bizarre how quickly it disappears. And that's how much more rapidly life is happening there than in a temperate environment. Like I live in Oregon, the dog takes a crap and it's there 6 months later still, right? That sort of thing. So everything's happening at a faster pace. But in order for that faster pace to happen, it requires all the humidity, it requires the canopy to be in place, it requires all the elements, all the animals, everything that's there in order for the system to work the way it does. And once they cut those trees, that soil turns into clay. And nothing's going to grow there after that. And so one of the people asked, what will you do when the forest is gone? And the thing that struck me so much is he kind of looked down and looked puzzled. He thought about it for a bit, and he looked up and he says, I am the forest. When the forest is gone, I'm gone. In his mind, there was no sense of separation between him and the earth. And it blew me away. It was like a slap in the face, because to me, there's me, and then there's the earth. And if the earth is destroyed, it's okay, I can just move on to some other plot of land. And that's a very unhelpful point of view. And that's what we've been doing in the modern world for hundreds of years now. We just take what we want, and when we're done with it, we throw it out like an empty can of Coke, right? It's very disrespectful. Not just disrespectful to the land, it's disrespectful to our own bodies, because guess what? I challenge any of you to find anything that's here that isn't earth. You are literally earth moving and speaking. That's what the body is. It is moving and speaking earth. In fact, in the Genesis code, it's pointed out that Adam, that word translates into soil creature. That's an actually scientific definition of what a human being is. This isn't a religious perspective. That's actually a fact. Your body is made of atoms and molecules that are all Earth, and all of Earth comes from the sun. Our solar system comes from a larger galaxy. Our galaxy is an extension, an expression of the universe. It's all one seamless field of energy. So the question is, do you trust that or not? And to what degree? And your life quality, and by that I don't mean how many riches you have, but I mean like your actual inner feeling of being is determined by to which degree, to the degree to which you recognize that fact on a daily basis in the actual moment. Embodied, not as a philosophy, but an actual physical realization. I wonder if that makes sense to you, Judith. You're muted, so you might unmute yourself.
Yeah, that does, because if I'm destroying the planet, I'm destroying myself, and I will go on into, my soul will I believe my soul will transfer, but there must be some responsibility for helping destroy the earth.
It's interesting. I had a vision some time ago that it was in the Amazon, if I recall, where if you die, you just come back. But this is the strange thing. You come back to the world you helped to create. So people often think, it's okay, I'm going to die anyway, I'll take advantage while I'm here. That's the attitude. Well, you might be, what if you were born back into the world you created with that previous attitude? Maybe that's just. Maybe that's just. Now, I don't know if there's actually reincarnation or not. That's just I'm just describing what I saw. But in any case, we can honestly say taking responsibility and actually caring for things is going to be psychologically and neurologically healthy for us now, as well as
it's consciousness.
Way isn't, and that's proven neurologically and psychologically. So whether there's reincarnation or not, in every way of looking at it, communing with the body, communing with your environment is healthy and will lead you to a life of meaningfulness, engagement, and trust. And the other will lead you to a kind of hell. So with that, let's move on to the next person. Teresa Walsh.
Yes, there I am.
There you are.
Zoom is a new experience, as they say. But, as you were going through your experience, I found it interesting. I've been doing a lot of inner child work and have been for a long time, working on phases of things that happened in the past, real hardships, and looking at them and moving with it, getting comfortable with it, exploring it, right, and learning to love. And I've been doing that over many years, right? And just recently, over the same period of time that you were going through your stuff, and it just came on, and there I was listening to you and what you're going through, and I thought, this is fascinating to me, right? How the body just does what it's supposed to do, and the trust of allowing the body to make these choices, even though we may not mentally understand them, right? And a few weeks later, I had severe bronchial bronchitis, which was the nemesis of my childhood. And I hadn't experienced bronchitis like that in 20 years. But my childhood that's what it was, my young adulthood. Then I did a lot of healing in the physical body to change that, right? Diet, many different things, right? Fasting, all kinds of stuff, right? Primarily in the physical body, but obviously not in other parts of the body, right? So here I was having this physical experience again, right? Where I had to trust the body this time, truly trust the body to do what it was supposed to do. And in the past, I never trusted the body.
That's right.
I was afraid every time that happened. It was a fear-based scenario. And then this time, it was interesting to have the thoughts running through the uncomfortability and pain and you know what I mean? Like the essence of a fear thought go through and be like, that's okay. Also to acknowledge my inner child and comfort the inner child at the same time. This is happening, and love her. And at the same time, my physical person was like, I've done all the right things, right? I've done all this like work. I eat the right foods. I do that, right? And then it's like, no, that's not what we're exploring here. That's not what we're doing, right? So when you were talking after that, I was like, wow, this is a trust. This is fully trusting my body to do the work it's to do, and to explore this in a new state of consciousness where I am today, right? And acknowledging my inner child and loving that inner child and not pushing her away for those feelings, those, that history that comes with it. And it was very difficult at times. And I wanted out, right? And then I would find myself just allowing it to be. But it was very helpful listening to how you were exploring it and just not trying to make sense of everything in the process that I was in for those weeks.
Yes.
And so listening, and then today is all of a sudden I looked at my email and this thing popped in and I thought, this is really interesting to explore, right? How our bodies have their own, we have the cellular memory, I think, is what goes on to a certain degree. And then we have to purge it, allow it to purge, allow it to open.
Yeah,
Right.
that's the key word, is allow it to purge. Because if we purge it, then that's, again, willful.
Yes. And I think that's what I did, is I purged it before in a willful way, like you were saying, but didn't allow it to be and trust it to be. And so here I went through a whole exploration of it.
Yes.
And it was very interesting. But anyway, that's just what had been going on. And
you're experiencing the book of life, in a sense.
Yes.
You got a chance to explore for many years what the mind wants to do, ideology, how things should be, and the willful approach to life versus a trust. And these are very different things. And the trust we're talking about is not the same thing as what most people mean by trust. Most people mean by trust, they're not talking about their body. I trust you, right? I trust this or I trust that, but they don't trust themselves at all.
Yes.
Right. And that's the beginning of what I capital all caps trust is. It begins with you. And only when you can fully trust yourself do you really have the eyes to see and be truly you, without constantly projecting things onto life and other people and yourself. Right.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Thank you for
Sorry.
Thank you for sharing your exploration as well. And others who have talked on this.
Absolutely.
It's been very helpful.
One thing I'd like to say is you might ask your body, is this for you to share publicly? And for many of you, it is. Just as I share, it helps you to open up to trust a little bit more. For some of you, a lot more. As you share, it may help others to do so as well. But the key point in the sharing is that you don't turn trust into an ideology. That's what the mind always tries to do. You should trust. It doesn't work that way, right? Just, I'm trusting this is the result. You might just invite people to that, right? right? As soon as you turn trust into an ideology and that's the answer, it's no longer the answer because now your mind's forcing it. It is an openness, right? And not with the expectation that the results are going to be pleasant. Right? All right. Because one way or the other, your body is going to do what it's going to do. Right? And if you try to resist it, it's just going to get really, really sick probably at some point or cause other people lots of harm. And the earth, of course. All the issues that we're going through in our world right now, these are a reflection of the psychology of humanity on an individual and a mass basis as a result of not trusting. As you lose trust or you don't live by trust for the body, what happens is it creates a psychological dissonance, and that creates compulsions and urges. You're going to eat this thing or that thing or do this or that if you were sane, you wouldn't do. This is happening all the time. This is why the world is the way it is. And so I'm not judging the world as it's evil. I'm just saying that it's a reflection of a lack of trust. And we're not going to correct the problems of the world politically. That's not the way it's going to happen. It can't happen that way. The political correction might happen as a result of trust, but trust is primary. The more people trust, the more we can be honest. And if we can't be honest, how can we possibly find any solutions? Right. So an embodied honesty is different than a kind of philosophical honesty. It's a different animal. It's a different thing. The embodied trust is what's going to lead us potentially to a psychological clarity that's predicated by an embodied clarity. Now, so let's move on to Bianca. You still here?
Yes, I am.
Oh, there you are. Screen moved around. Lost your place. Go ahead.
Okay, so I just wanted to share a little bit the trust experience. It's been extremely helpful. I did watch the first video, which actually did change my perspective, not in a willful way, but it did change my attitude overall. So I did try before to embrace positive attitude, but that never occurred. I would get more negative about things, but now I do feel more trust in the body, which actually helped me seeing a lot of things in my body. There's actually a lot of tension. The tension was there before, but I would avoid feeling my body at all costs possible, not to feel them. I've been embracing the pain a little bit. Before there was this mention about the attitude of exercising. I think it was really helpful because I think I'm being a little bit willful about the exercise because I feel a lot of pain in my shoulders. It hurts so much to the point I feel it in my dream. Yeah, I can't really sit right, and my body feels highly uneven. Like one side is higher than the other, which is extremely uncomfortable because I can feel like the right is higher and then the left shoulder is like so painful. So my question is that okay, I know it's about allowing the body, which no, I haven't been allowing. Yeah, just can't do me. No, I don't allow as much as I thought I did. Okay.
So right now, does your body communicate with you? You can see it, right?
I don't.
You saw it right lifetime, right? So your mind has this idea, the body goes, that's bullshit.
Yeah, it's not allowing. Okay, I kind of just answered my own question. Okay, I haven't been allowing as much as I thought I did. The exercising is super willful. It's like my mind and my body is two different things. Yeah, I see it now because certain food I don't want to eat. I see my body getting up and eating it, although I don't want to eat it. It caused a lot of pain in my right foot. And it's like, I really don't want to eat it, but yet I'm eating it. It's like I have no control over my own body. So yeah, yes. I see it. It is super compulsive.
Yes. It's hilarious to me because this is reality for almost everybody. It's like we're in the backseat of our own vehicle. So somebody else is driving the car, and it's compulsions as a result of a lack of trust, right? And you've come such a long way since we first met. It's because right now, lifetime, you answered your own question. Your body it's just obvious to you. You can see it. And that means that there is an actual increase in trust. You are trusting more. Trust is growing within you, would be a better way of saying it, or revealing itself within you, right? So, hey, that's wonderful. Thank you. All right, Janet Rodriguez. She wrote a lot, so let me my glasses on here. I've been going through something similar, gradual level 4, level 5 herniation to excruciating pain. No precipitating event. That's not a lot of fun when that happens. So we're talking about presumably, L4, L5, so it's just vertebrae hernia. Those are the discs between, for those of you who don't know, the discs between the vertebrae, and they can become inflamed and herniated, bulging. And that can press on nerves, and it's really painful. Been through that. So she says, no precipitating event that caused it, not wanting food, sleeping a lot. I was walking 3 miles a day and doing Pilates reformer 2 to 3 times a week before all this. Rashes, all pain on the left side. Labs also changed suddenly. I have high blood pressure, very high cholesterol, high iron. All of these changes occurred at the same time. I am right-handed, yes. Hearing others are experiencing similar, my question is, could our bodies be working with purging, handling stress that is built up in the collective? Yes, this seems to be I mean, there's no way for me to prove this. We don't have the scientific tools to be able to prove what I'm saying. I know that there's some, spiritual teachers who say we have the scientific, but that's not. If you do some research, and I have, you find out that we really don't know. And I don't like to be idealistic. I don't like to say things that I can't prove scientifically. So I can only say what I see and leave it up to you to take it as you want. It would be a lie for me to say, yes, scientifically, you are a representative of the collective, and you're purging for the collective. Honesty has to be authenticity, and honesty has to be the core of my communication. So I will only describe it as I see it. Yes, from my perspective, what my body's going through is purging for the totality and myself. It's both. And I suspect the same is true for anyone who goes through this trust process. Right? Because if you don't trust, you're not really purging in an effective way. It's not helping the totality. But I wouldn't recommend you trust it in an ideological way or philosophical way to help the totality. Trust is trust. It's not for anything. It is just for itself. If it's to heal the totality, that becomes an egoic goal in its own form of willfulness. That's not trust. Trust is trust. It has nothing else involved. It is just trust. Trust for trust's sake, because that is, in a sense, maybe your nature that you've diverged from through the mind for a long period of time. Now, it's important to also stress that we cannot actually tap into trust if we have lots of ideology. We have fixed ideas about reality, ourselves, very fundamentalist ideas, or anything that's really hard. Beliefs are okay, but if you it's helpful to keep them very soft. We need beliefs. I have to believe that going to the toilet will relieve my bladder, or I won't go to the toilet. Everything requires belief. We don't want the belief to be hard. Keep it soft. Unfortunately, our society keeps telling us, believe, 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 this, that, and the other thing. It used to be religion, now it's other things. But these things create hardness. Even positive thinking becomes its own hardness. Positive thinking can only take you so far, and it doesn't necessarily lead to trust. I'm not saying any of these things are wrong. I'm just saying trust is not, trust is like, in an embodied level, trust is what you're born with. It's a, kind of a lowercase trust, because the individual isn't, its mind has yet to develop to a point where there could be a question about trust. So it's simply, there isn't even a choice in the matter, and it's reliant on the caretaker to take care of it. So it is a trust, but it's sort of a lowercase trust all the way across the board. When the mind develops, the individual develops, it starts to have these ideas and receive ideas that become hard beliefs that then kind of almost lock us into this perception that I'm me and you're we're different. And trust, this, the capital TRUST is it's very difficult to find when we have hard ideas. So we soften and say, I don't know, a lot more. I don't know. Awakening is awakening to the great unknown, because that's the reality is even God doesn't know where it came from, so to speak, metaphorically speaking, whatever we call God, the universe. If it's a timeless thing, it didn't come from anything else. This is an important thing to just acknowledge. If it's a timeless thing, if it's everywhere, it comes from nothing. And therefore, it doesn't know where it came from. And it also doesn't know what it is. It is a great unknowing. And that's its wisdom. The beginning of intelligence is first admitting, I don't know, and then beginning to look. Right? This isn't humility. This is just honesty. There's no such thing as humility. Humility is an act. I want you to think I'm a humble person and virtual person, so I'm going to act this certain way. That's humility. It's not a virtue. Honesty and authenticity, that's the beginning. Trust is even deeper than those things. But you need courage, honesty, authenticity to get to trust. And love helps. All right. Let's see. Going back to your question, from what I see, it seems to be that the purging of the individual, if it's coming through trust and not a willful way, is a purging for the totality as well. All right. KJ says, wow, not sure what the wow was for, but thank you to whoever you were wowing to and for whatever you were wowing for. We've got Tony Miller, being your true self is part of the journey, the hardest thing to be. Yeah, that's true, isn't it? The hardest thing to be is the one thing you cannot not be. You'll never not be yourself. That's the funny thing. You can act not yourself, but you'll never not be it. Just as you'll never not be the universe. So there you go. Kurt, go ahead.
Thank you, Richard. I don't want to jump ahead of KJ there. I think KJ wants to talk, but I do have a question since I'm unmuted here already. And everything that you have said and everybody has said makes perfect sense to me, it's perfectly logical to me. My question is, however, and this may pertain particularly to the North American diet, there's so many chemicals in the food that if you ask the average person, well, let's ask your body what it needs. They're responding to these addictions, these sugars, these salts, these chemicals. It's like asking a kid that just eats candy really well, you tell me what you want. And they're going to say candy. So I'm wondering here now, like, and based on my experience of doing fast, like water fast, and I've done longer water fast, and a piece of lettuce, when you start to eat again, tastes extremely amazing. Like it's never tasted like that before in all the years of my life. So I'm here thinking that maybe, and if you know the answer, maybe do a willful fast, or maybe there is a meditation process you do first to get the right voice before you're able to trust what you're hearing from the body. Because my thinking right now is that a lot of us are going to be hearing what the chemical is telling us, the funguses and everything else that's in our body saying, this is what you need to do right now. Eat more of this, drink more of this, because that's what I feel. Anyway, yes. That's just my idea. Yes. Thank you.
No, that's a very good point. And this is the thing. This is why I teach the courses I teach, to differentiate. There's a lot of subtlety to this, to differentiate. In fact, one of the students on the Facebook, I can't remember, I think it's a Genesis Code page, asked something very similar just this morning. It was something about a passage in the Bible about if you trust, living by the body leads you astray, basically, right? And what that really means is living by compulsions leads you astray. And living by compulsions is actually a result of not trusting the body. The difficulty that you just explained, Kurt, is if you've not lived with trust for the body for a long, long time, your brain essentially acclimated to the compulsions and urges for candy and, the smokes and the sex and, all these things that, and it's difficult, like your inner compass is spinning it. You can't tell the difference. And so there is a method to tell the difference. And it starts by actually paying attention to your life and asking yourself basically these 4 questions is we'll start with what you do. Is it helpful? Is it meaningful? Is it necessary? Is it engaging? For example, I used to play lots of video games. And in Japan, when I worked as a teacher, we had summer break. And the summer break I've just spent a whole bunch of time playing video games, like all day long. And at the end of the day, it was always this hollow feeling. It was engaging. Yes, it was engaging. So it met one of the criteria in that it was fun. While I was playing it, I was enjoying it. But at the end of the day, there was no meaningfulness there. It certainly wasn't helpful. And it wasn't necessary. It met one of the criteria. Your sugar, our smokes, our cheap sex, our rampant addiction to entertainment is going to meet 1, maybe 2 of those criteria. If it's coming from, if it's leading us in the direction of what we'll describe as this trust or awakening, it'll at least have 3 of those categories fit, according to your own definition. And as you practice asking those questions about your thoughts and feelings and emotions and behaviors and what you say and all of that, start to apply it to all of your life. What happens is, not only do you become more aware on an embodied level of what is meaningful, necessary, engaging, and helpful, but your awareness becomes much more refined. It's just like your bodily awareness becomes so refined. And this isn't thought. This is a much deeper level of awareness. And that's where that takes us into this capital TRUST, right? And so it starts with asking some questions, as most things do, because we don't know. We don't know. This is the funny thing about human beings. We do things all the time. We don't know why we do them. And not only do we not know why we do them, while they're happening, we might not even want them to be happening, but our body's doing it anyway. We are in a conversation with someone. We know we shouldn't say this certain thing. We say it anyway. And we're like, why the hell did I say that? I can't stop myself. This tells us that we're a hell of a lot less conscious than most of us want to think we are. We aren't really controlling our lives very much at all, right? We have little windows where we think we're making choices and controlling them. But if you really start to look at those, without that capital TRUST, even that stuff might not be a choice. It might just seem like a choice. I mean, unless you see the whole picture, how would you know? Maybe there's some stealth stuff coming through that's actually manipulating you to do this, that, or the other thing, like your gut bacteria getting you to eat the sugar. And so we start waking up to the fact that we maybe are not necessarily in as much control as we really wanted to believe we were. And maybe this desire for control is also a compulsion as a result of a lack of trust. Does that make sense to you, Kurt? And did I answer your question?
It made perfect sense, Richard. And yes, you did answer my question. And I have the answer now is to start asking the questions. That's where it starts. And to continue to ask
helpful, necessary, meaningful, engaging.
Thank you for
questions.
Yes.
That's the magic formula. All right. And I have no idea how I learned that because no one ever told it to me. I never read it anywhere. My body just revealed it to me at some point. I don't remember when that happened. I suspect it happened while writing a book. All right. Let's see. Janet Rodriguez. I can't reject one side of the coin without rejecting the whole coin. Yes, that's a great thing. It's an acceptance for the totality or a non-acceptance. And you'll pay the price for both. All right. The beauty of life, your first breath is your first step to death. So you might as well enjoy the ride, right? Tony Miller, things put on our hard drive from those around us as children covers the truth. Yeah, so I mean, basically, you didn't choose your upbringing. You didn't choose your personality. Most everything about you is an emergence of momentum of the universe. And that's the first step, is to acknowledge that that's a reality. And the idea that you controlled all that, it doesn't take much looking to see through that illusion if you really want to be honest. And it's important to be honest in that way if you're interested in awakening. Now, if you're not interested in awakening, to be fully you, don't ask those questions. Don't look at those things. Give me the finger and tell me to fuck off. That's fine. Don't waste your time. And no problem. This isn't a religion. Do what you want with your life. But don't call me and ask me to hang out with you if you're going to behave that way, right? Because it's unpleasant, right? I'm not going to, what do you say, spend my time with someone who's willfully unwilling to see themselves, because that will mean that they're willfully unwilling to see me as well as the rest of reality. And why expose yourself to that if you don't share that common interest? All right. That's just my point of view. I don't recommend any of you think that way necessarily, unless you want to. All right. Janice Rodriguez says that's what it feels like. Janet, if you're willing to speak something, what is it? What's what it feels like? What was that statement referring to? All right. Since she's not popping on, we'll move on. Greg Knott. Sorry, I came on late. Recently, my back started getting tight and then started spasming. Are you saying that I should trust my body, that I should trust the body is doing what it needs? And should I do nothing and let it do its thing? Or also do Qigong, PT, physical therapy, etc., help it out? I'm not saying anything you should do. That would be extraordinarily arrogant, and that would not be helpful. If you feel drawn to explore trust, you will. And if you don't, you won't. I'm just describing what's happening with my body. I'm not even describing what I'm doing. I'm describing what's happening with my body, what it's doing. I don't think this should be an ideology. I don't think people should say, if you trust, it's going to solve all your problems, or you should trust. That would turn it into religion. Unhelpful. So this is just an invitation for those who feel like, I want to explore my essential nature and trust more and see where it takes me. And if your body actually, if your hand picks up the phone and calls the physical therapist, isn't that also a part of trust? Maybe. Right? Maybe. If my body reaches over to the phone and calls my health practitioner to solve these problems, then that's what will happen. Right? It just simply hasn't done that yet. It's doing all kinds of other things, which have been incredibly revelatory. And I think the experience that I've had so far, I've been very careful not to project what the result will be. Because as soon as you project what the result is going to be, you're basically projecting what you want or what you fear, and that's not trust. This is the thing that's hardest for people to get, because that's the habit we have, is this constant projecting of what we want. It's basically a 2-year-old mindset, right? And it's not that it's wrong. It's not that it's wrong, because prior to trust, that's all you have. I mean, without trust, what else are you going to do? We're in a death sentence. We're walking the green mile every day, right? And if you are walking the green mile every day in your mind, in your neurology, but haven't even acknowledged that fact, haven't, like, in an embodied level, really acknowledged that fact, then all there are is compulsions, fears, and projections. So it's very natural. What I would suggest for those who want to trust more is you might just start communicating with your body a bit more. You might start asking it, is what I'm doing helpful, necessary, meaningful, and engaging? It's sort of a magic spell that, that starts to unravel your perceived reality. All right, I think that's it for the questions. There's a reason why, like, these interactions are very, very helpful. this interaction is not my choice. Literally an hour prior to our meeting, my body just started typing out the email to send to you all. So I guess we're gonna have a meeting at 11:30. That's how it happened. For those of you who wanted to explore trust more, awareness is a very helpful place to start. You might head over to my website. We have courses on awareness. This is a lot of things that are just simply not taught anywhere else. The reason for that is my background is very, very high level, intense samurai arts that are based on deep subconscious awareness. Those things are not taught to anybody that's not at the highest levels. I'm probably the first to actually talk about any of this stuff from the samurai arts. If you would like to take those courses, check them out. You might find that some of them are helpful for you. There's incredible detail. Some of you have taken the Ocean of Awareness course. You know what I'm talking about, but they're going to challenge the hell out of you. And maybe that's a good thing for you. Maybe it's an invitation anyway. I'd like to thank everybody who stuck around to view this entire video. And I would also ask you to ask yourself, has this video helped you in any way? And if so, in what way? And do you feel that this video and the information that was in there would be helpful to someone that you care for and love? And if so, I invite you to share this video with others. You can find the share button below, and you can send it to social media and LinkedIn or Facebook or whatever to contact whoever you feel would benefit from this video. Also, you'll notice that there'll be two little squares here. One will be the first video that I did on trust that will explain, this is like a month and a half ago, about what I was doing and why I was doing it. And this one here is just the playlist for trust. Right now, I believe there's maybe 9 or 10 videos there, all of which are very helpful for those who feel like trust is the way forward for them. And if you would like to get more videos like this, I try to be as helpful and honest as with what's going on and what I see as possible. You might click to subscribe and hit the notification bell, because I've been putting up videos quite regularly. And if you don't want to miss them, that's the way you get notified. And thank you so much. And I hope to see you live sometime. Bye-bye.